Hi, it's Alex from Moon Mode. Today I'm going to talk to you about the music for our science fiction truck game Time to Dawn. So, music. Music is just such an essential part of a video game experience. It is kind of the glue, I suppose, that pulls everything together. In the case of Time to Dawn, I've set myself 5 goals that I'm going to do my best to try and fulfill, and the prototype that we're making has, well, it's an attempt to achieve these 5 goals. So in this video, I'm going to go over what those 5 goals are and some of the thoughts behind them. So number 1 is the music needs to capture the mood of Kyo and of the gameplay. Number 2, this is a game about driving at night, so the music needs to sound like you're driving at night. Number 3, it's also a game about traveling, and the music needs to allow for giving the sense of location and having traveled. Number 4, it cannot be too repetitive. And number 5, I think it's really important in the case of Time to Dawn that the music leaves some space for the ambient sound to come through. And we're going to go into these points now. So, Time to Dawn, as you'll know if you've watched the previous videos, is a fairly dark, contemplative game, and it has a slower, more gentle pace. When doing music for video games, my wheelhouse is electronic music. I have a deep, deep love of electronic music of all different varieties. And one of the kind of strengths and also dangers of working with electronic music is that we're not limited to physical instruments like these. So we can make absolutely any sound, which is amazingly freeing, but it also gives you a kind of there's a risk there as well, that because you can just make absolutely anything, there's a risk that at the end of it, there's no kind of cohesion with the sound at all. It just sounds like a whole bunch of everything, which isn't really what you want. So one trick that I like to do, as always with anything artistic, limitations are really, really useful for channeling ideas into a specific direction to give a sense of consistency. So one thing that I like to do is to pick one synthesizer and try and create as much of the music as possible with one synthesizer. That means using the one synthesis approach, because every synthesizer has a different approach to making sound, for creating all of the sounds that you hear in the music. I find that this tends to give the music a certain kind of consistency, there's that word again, at the end of it, where things kind of sound like they've been grown from one seed, if you like. Now, in the case of Time to Dawn, we'll go and I'll show you this. So the synthesizer that I chose for the job, in this case, is PadShop by Steinberg. PadShop actually comes with Cubase, which is a digital audio workstation, or DAW, or DAW. This is not Cubase that we're looking at. This is Renoise Tracker, which is a more kind of esoteric old school approach to making music that I use quite a lot. So here is PadShop, and if I play some stuff here, so this is a granular synthesizer, and just very, very basically what it's doing here is if I hold down a note, you see these white lines represent single points along this waveform where it is sampling the sound and then making tiny little loops along those single points. And unlike playing just a sample from the start all the way through to the end, if you're sampling multiple random points like this, it gives a very distinct kind of textured, grainy sound, hence granular synthesis. And I felt that in the case of Time to Dawn, this textured sound was kind of perfect for getting the feeling of this world. I didn't really want anything anything that would point the music too obviously in a genre direction. And unlike other forms of synthesis like subtractive, additive, wavetable, or physical modeling, or any of these other kinds of synthesis paradigms, granular synthesis tends to be a little bit more kind of genre agnostic, I suppose. Like you can't really associate it with anything in particular, and I thought that was kind of useful in the case of Time to Dawn. So now let's go on to back here. The next point is driving at night. So I don't know if I'm the only person in the entire world that feels this way, but for me, driving at night is a very, very particular kind of vibe. I think it's the darkness and the lights kind of going past you like this that gives night driving a very specific feeling. There are certain tracks of music that capture that perfectly. Ironically, the very appropriately named Drive by the 80s pop group The Cars, that has this kind of feeling. I don't know if it was maybe a earlier experience when I was younger of actually driving at night, listening to that song that kind of brings back this sense of nostalgia for me. Perhaps that's what it is. But Drive has this specific, slower tempo that has a kind of a momentum to it, which feels very much to me like, the street lights going by. Then, of course, it's impossible not to mention Kraftwerk when you're talking about any kind of electronic music as the great elder statesman of electronic music in general. There are a lot of tracks by Kraftwerk that really capture that feeling of driving at night perfectly. So the rhythm is the main thing that I've taken for Time to Dawn to give this sense of momentum and just the passing of the lights and the sense of that night driving experience. Right, the third thing is giving a sense of location. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's a game about traveling, so it needs to feel like the music system can accommodate cultural cues in different areas of Kyo. So here it sounds like this, here it sounds like that, here it sounds like this. So the music system needs to be flexible enough to accommodate that. Next is making it not too repetitive. Now, in an ideal world with unlimited budget, unlimited resources, and unlimited creative energy, us game audio people would be making for you, like 20-hour game tracks for your 20 hours of gameplay so that you never hear anything repeat. That's not practical, obviously, and so we often have to rely on smaller chunks of music that repeat. And the challenge always is with game music, repeating things without it sounding too obviously repetitive, or at least making it sound intentional when you're doing that. So broadly speaking, there are two approaches that are often used either independently or mixed together. We call them a vertical approach and a horizontal approach. So a vertical approach is basically where you have chunks of music that are repeating over and over again, layered on top of each other, and they're not all, you don't hear them all playing, but they're always all playing, always looping. And then depending on what's going on in the game, you will adjust the balance of these different simultaneously playing chunks to kind of give a sense of the music responding to what the player is doing. Because an obvious challenge with video games is that we have no idea what the player is going to do when. And so unlike, say, a movie where you can just score something from the beginning and it runs to the end, in the case of a game, you have to allow the music to feel like it's more dynamic and it's adjusting to what the player is doing. So a vertical approach is quite an easy and effective way to do that. The horizontal approach is the same thing, except unlike things playing like that, it's horizontal, and basically this part will loop, and then when the player does something, it will transition into this part, and then now that loops, and then when they do something else, it transitions to this part. And so the term horizontal refers to moving between different pieces of music that are playing on a single timeline. Often these two approaches are mixed, and that's exactly what I've done in the case of Time to Dawn. So I'll show you now. Let's go over to, let's get rid of that logo. Right, so this is Fmod, which is audio middleware, which is basically audio music tool that sits in between the game engine and on the other side of it, the raw assets and the music that we create, or that I create. So Fmod is quite nice here because you can get an immediate representation of how the music system is working visually. Now, we see here that we have basically two sections. This section is when you're in a settlement. So if you're in a settlement, we're playing in here, and then when you're driving, we're playing in here. So this is the horizontal approach at work here, because at this time, the state of the game is that we are in a settlement, so where the timeline will be along here, and then when you start driving, the playhead is going to jump over to here, to this driving section. Now, the fifth goal that I was talking about earlier was making sure that we have space for the ambience of the world and the sound effects of the world to come through. And you can actually see that that's what this is right here. So when you are in the settlement, it will loop around like this. And then when you start driving, this part is going to fade out. And then we're going to go through here where there's no music at all. And the idea there is just to give space for the sound of the engines, the sound of the world, the sound of rain and thunder, just to come through a little bit before, as you can see here, the music is fading in. So now, the vertical approach here that we have going is that the chords, the bass and the drums, these three components, they're represented here by these three purple blocks, I guess. Inside these, there's different variations that can be playing, just to give a little bit of variety to what you're listening to. And as the playhead moves across these, it will pick one of these to play, and one of these to play, and one of these to play. And it basically plays all the way through until the end here, when it fades out, and then we have a looping passage here at the end, where it's just going to loop around here indefinitely until you come to the next settlement. Again, just as a chance to give the world sound a moment to shine. So if I play this now, you'll hear all this in action. So if we just start now. So the music is fading in gently, and you can see here that the playhead is going to come to this blue section, which is where it's going to loop. One of the cool things about Fmod is visually it makes it very obvious to see what's going on here, because we've got actually two playheads. You've got this playhead here, which is the small one there is actually this looping component of sound, and then the big one here represents globally what's going on, and you'll see it jump back here. So it's just looping around this section. Now if I change the state of the game to driving, so let's say we've just driven out of a settlement, and now you see that the playhead jumps across to this driving section. The settlement music just gently fades out, and we have this moment of blissful lack of music, where we can hear the sound of the engines and stuff, which is what you'll hear in the actual gameplay. And then from this point, the music will fade in. And I have there one of three loops of a bass line that's playing. This is, incidentally, exactly the same tempo as Drive by the Cars, I believe, give or take. Some BPM, some drums coming in there. So like I was mentioning about the night driving aspect, this kind of rhythm is sort of trying to simulate this feeling of having the lights going past you. And that's one of the stems of chords that are coming in there. Now I guess what will happen is that this whole structure will be mirrored wherever you are, except in different parts of the world we'll be able to have different options for these random containers to choose from, so that you get some variety and a sense for a cultural grounding in different parts of the world. Yeah, and so this playhead is going to basically go through this whole piece of music, repeating it a few times until it comes here to the end, and then it's just going to be silence and listening to the sound of the world. All right. Yeah, so that's a kind of a general overview of what I'm trying to do with the music in Time to Dawn. I hope you really enjoyed this. I'm sorry this has been quite a long video because I tend to talk endlessly about music, but I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, as always, please do all the good social media things to help this video reach more people who might be interested in what we're doing with this game. In the next video, I'm going to have a playthrough of the prototype without any of me talking. Yes, none of the guy rambling, so that's great. And yeah, at that point of this project, now we're going to take it to publishers, and we're going to hope that a publisher is interested in helping us make the full game. So I hope you've enjoyed this series of videos about Time to Dawn, and yeah, please connect with us. Please let us know what you think, and please, all of that stuff. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.